Welcome back, Deep Jiders. Today we're diving into the career of an actress who's really made a name for herself, Rebecca Ferguson. She's been in everything from big action flicks to thought-provoking dramas.
Yeah, she's become a household name, that's for sure. But looking at her career trajectory, it really makes you wonder, is she just incredibly lucky? Or has she carefully crafted this image of, the versatile actress who can do it all?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? Grifter or gifted? So let's start at the beginning. She was born in Sweden, right?
That's right, Stockholm, to be exact. And she started performing early, even attending a special music school, Adolf Fredriks Music School. It's interesting because Sweden has this long, rich history of filmmaking.
Oh, yeah. Tell me more about that. I didn't realize.
Seriously, it goes way back, but it really got revitalized after World War II. They've produced some amazing directors and films, so even though she's made it big in Hollywood, her roots are in a film culture that values artistry.
That's a great point. It's not just about the glitz and glamour there.
Exactly. And some of her early roles were in Swedish television shows like Nya Tider and Ocean Ave. So she wasn't just thrown into the Hollywood machine right away. She got to develop her skills in a really solid environment.
It's like she learned the craft from the ground up.
Totally. And then she transitioned to film with Drowning Ghost back in 2004, a thriller, which the Swedish are known for their dark psychological thrillers. So even her first film role was in a genre that demands a certain depth.
Interesting. Plus, she won a Rising Star Award at the Stockholm Film Festival around that time, so people were already recognizing her potential.
Oh, absolutely. But it was The White Queen that really put her on the map internationally. I mean, she landed a Golden Globe nomination for that role.
Yeah. The White Queen. I remember that show. It was captivating. What can you tell us about the character she played, Elizabeth Woodville?
She was this fascinating woman navigating the complexities of power in a very male-dominated world. And it wasn't just about being a queen, it was about the vulnerability, the sacrifices, the constant struggle to maintain her position.
I bet playing that role was a real challenge.
You better believe it. And just getting the part was an ordeal. She had to go through 4 callbacks and then a final audition on a bank holiday, which is crazy, but she was determined to get it.
That's some serious dedication.
Right. And historical dramas are so demanding. The costumes, the makeup, the whole process of embodying a character from a completely different era.
It's not just about showing up and saying your lines.
Yeah.
You have to really become that person.
You got it. And then she did a complete 180 and starred in Mission Impossible Rogue Nation. Talk about a different genre. Suddenly, she's an action star. Did you know she actually did a lot of her own stunts?
No way. Seriously.
Oh, yeah. And we're talking about a film that made almost $700 million worldwide. So now, not only has she proven herself as a dramatic actress, but she's also a bona fide action star.
That's a smart move career-wise.
Yeah, you have to wonder, was this calculated? I mean, did she see this as a way to broaden her appeal, maybe even increase her earning potential? Or was it purely about pushing herself as an actress, taking on a new challenge?
It's a good question. And it's not like she stopped there. She went on to work with some incredible directors like Denis Villeneuve in Dune and Stephen Frears and Florence Foster Jenkins. She did musicals. She's even narrated nature documentaries. It's like she's determined to do it all.
It really is. She's got this incredibly diverse filmography. It kind of makes you wonder, is she a strategic mastermind who's carefully planning each step to maximize her fame and fortune?
Or she just following her passions, taking on roles that excite her, and letting the chips fall where they may.
It's hard to say for sure.
Yeah.
And to make things even more interesting, she's not just acting anymore. She's moved into producing, too. She was an executive producer on Apple TV's Silo.
So now she's not just performing. She's actually shaping the stories being told.
Exactly. And that raises even more questions about her motivations and her goals. Is she just a really talented actress, or is there something more going on here?
Okay, so we've got this picture of Rebecca Ferguson as a talented actress, a strategic career builder, and now a producer. But what about the woman behind the curtain? What about her personal life?
Well, that's where it gets tricky. She's famously private. She doesn't share a lot about her personal life.
Yeah, that seems to be her style, which,
Yeah.
In a way just adds to the mystery.
Mm-hmm.
But we do know some things, like she's a mom of 2.
Right. She has a son, Isaac, from a previous relationship with Ludwig Hallberg, and a daughter, Sage, with her current husband, Rory St. Clair Gaynor. And it's pretty impressive how she's managed to keep them out of the spotlight.
Especially in this day and age where it seems like every celebrity's kid is plastered all over social media.
I know, right? It makes you wonder if it's a deliberate strategy on her part, like she's carefully controlling the narrative, or maybe she's just super protective of her family, wanting to give them a sense of normalcy.
Yeah, finding that balance between public and private life can't be easy. And speaking of her husband, Rory St. Clair Gaynor, he seems to like staying behind the scenes too. But he pops up in these little glimpses we get of her personal life, of like that time he helped her with her outfit for the Dune Part 2 premiere.
Oh, yeah. The dog chains. That was amazing. Who would have thought to go to a pet store for red carpet accessories? It showed a side of her that we don't always see, that playful, edgy side.
It's like a reminder that even these huge stars are just people with their own quirks and relationships.
Yeah.
But then there's this other side to her, this activism, this willingness to speak out against injustice.
Right. She's been very vocal about the darker side of the entertainment industry, about bullying and harassment. And this isn't just some, bandwagon she's jumping on. She's spoken about her own experiences after the X Factor, how they tried to control her, what she ate, how much sleep she got. It's pretty shocking.
That's awful. It takes a lot of guts to speak out about that kind of stuff, especially when you're still building your career.
It really does. And she didn't just talk about it, she took action. She testified in front of UK Parliament. Talk about using your platform to make a difference.
That's a huge statement. And it makes that whole grifter versus gifted question even more confusing. Because on the one hand, we see this image of someone who's very calculated, maybe even manipulative in how she manages her career.
Right. But then she turns around and risks her career, risks alienating powerful people to protect others. That's not something a grifter would do.
Yeah, it's almost like there are two different Rebecca Fergusons. Or maybe it's just that we don't always see the full picture.
Maybe she's more complex than we give her credit for. Maybe her ambition isn't just about personal gain. Maybe it's also about trying to create a better industry for everyone. One where people are treated with respect and dignity.
Yeah, that's definitely something to think about. It also makes you wonder how much bad stuff goes on in Hollywood that we never hear about, and how many people are afraid to speak up because they don't want to lose their jobs.
Right. It takes real courage to stand up to that kind of power. And remember that incident she talked about where she walked off a set because a director was behaving inappropriately?
Yeah, she didn't even hesitate, just packed up and left.
That says a lot about her integrity. It makes you wonder if maybe some of the control she exerts over her public image is less about manipulation and more about self-preservation. Like, in an industry that can be so predatory, maybe that's how she protects herself.
It's a fascinating paradox. On the one hand, she's this super private person who guards her personal life fiercely. And on the other hand, she's willing to put herself out there and fight for what she believes in, even when it could hurt her career.
Yeah, it definitely challenges the way we usually think about celebrities, about ambition, about success.
So have we solved the mystery? Is Rebecca Ferguson a grifter or gifted?
After all this, I think it's more complicated than a simple label. She's clearly talented, she's strategic, she's an advocate, and she values her privacy. Maybe all of those things can be true at the same time.
Maybe the real takeaway here is that people are complicated, and trying to fit them into neat little boxes doesn't always work. So we've explored a lot about Rebecca Ferguson, her acting choices, her activism, her personal life. But can we figure out if she's more of a grifter or gifted? Where do we even begin to untangle that?
It really is a head scratcher. I mean, we've seen the evidence, right? The carefully curated career, the control over her public image, the big paychecks, especially that Dune payday. $500,000.
Yeah, that's a lot of dough. Makes you wonder, right? Is it all about the money for her?
It definitely makes you think. But we also have to remember, she's not some newbie. She's a proven actress at the top of her game.
That's true. She's earned the right to command a high salary, especially for a film like Dune, which had a massive budget.
Right, exactly. And let's not forget, she's done smaller films too, like Despite the Falling Snow, a Cold War spy thriller. Probably didn't bring in the big bucks, but it got her critical acclaim. So maybe it's not all about the money after all.
It seems like she's chosen a lot of roles that are pretty complex, pretty multi-layered.
Yeah.
I mean, you think about her characters, Elizabeth Woodville in The White Queen, Gilsa Faust in Infinite Jubation, Impossible, Lady Jessica, in Dune. These are strong, intelligent women who often have to make really tough decisions.
Absolutely. They're not just one-dimensional characters. They're grappling with real issues, facing moral dilemmas, and that's the kind of stuff that a serious actor would be drawn to,
It's like she wants to explore the human condition through her work, not just entertain.
Right. And you can't deny her talent, can you? She completely embodies her characters. She becomes them. And
Right.
she's even said that she prefers to play characters who are flawed, who make mistakes.
That's interesting. It suggests that she's not afraid to show the messiness of being human. She's not just trying to portray this perfect image.
Exactly. And think about all the effort she puts in. Learning to pick locks and ride a motorcycle for mission. Impossible. That crazy makeup process for the White Queen. This isn't someone who just shows up and expects things to be handed to them. She works hard.
Yeah, she definitely goes the extra mile. And then there's Silo, where she was a producer. That's a pretty dystopian, thought-provoking story.
It is. And it deals with some heavy themes, like societal control and what it takes to survive in a really messed up world. That tells you something about her taste, her interests. She wants to tell stories that matter.
And let's not forget her activism, which is pretty hard to ignore.
Yeah.
Speaking out against exploitation in Hollywood, testifying before Parliament, walking off set when a director crossed the line.
Yeah, those actions speak volumes, don't they? It's hard to imagine a true grifter putting their neck on the line like that, risking their career to protect others.
It really does make you question the whole grifter label. It's like maybe there's more to her ambition than just personal gain. Maybe it's also about making the industry a better, safer place.
Right. And when you think about her own experiences, how she was manipulated and controlled early on in her career, it makes her willingness to speak out even more powerful.
It's like she's saying, I'm not going to let what happened to me happen to anyone else. So where does this leave us? Is she a grifter or gifted?
Honestly, after looking at all this, I don't think it's about choosing one or the other. She's a talented actress, a savvy businesswoman, a passionate advocate, and a private person. Maybe it's all of those things together that make her who she is.
I think you're right. Maybe the real lesson here is that people are complex, and it's not always easy to categorize them.
And that's okay. The world would be pretty boring if we were all the same.
That's for sure. So what should our listeners keep in mind as they, continue to follow Rebecca Ferguson's career, which, she's not going anywhere. She's got a lot more to give.
I think it's about being open-minded. Don't just accept the surface level. Dig deeper, look at her choices, her actions, the impact she has.
And then decide for yourself. Is she a master manipulator, a gifted artist, or maybe a little bit of both?
That's what we're all about here on Grifter or Gifted, right? Encouraging people to think critically, to question their assumptions, to engage in meaningful conversations about the people who shape our world.
Yeah, well said. And on that note, it's time to wrap up this deep dive. Thanks for joining us, everyone. We'll be back soon with another fascinating figure. Until then, keep exploring.